Ladies and gentlemen, now I just come back from holiday and it has been a spicy week on the forums. The fuck Kabam train is at maximum capacity and I'm jumping aboard, dude. I read this first post and I was like, dude, this is so much bullshit. And it's so patronizing as well, the initial one. And it just is like, oh my, there are so many bits in this that I found like really, really annoying. Like the whole initial thing of like we risk having to cancel development on high upcoming difficult content, like Kabam are on the edge of bankruptcy because people aren't spending any money on the game despite them just being absolutely ridiculous and still kind of the main cash cow for Netmarble. In the last quarter of 2022, they made over 4 times the revenue of Marvel Future Fight and like double that of Seven Deadly Sins Grand Cross, and they outperformed like 3 casinos as well. So money wise, like they killed it last quarter, man. They got so much cash, crazy amounts there. And then there's also that thing about having like just we like players just spamming revives in this content. It's like, dude, they always have been, man. Yeah, just at certain points of the game, like people were impatient, and they still are impatient if they want to do it early on. So yeah, simply like spamming revives has been the tactic that most people have used for everything since the dawn of the game. Like this isn't some sort of like crazy new revelation. So yeah, and also like, oh, if we don't address this now, we're gonna have to dilute the rewards given from that content. And it's like, mate, I've been playing this game since Act 5 released and Uncollected debuted, and the rewards for Uncollected at the start were so goddamn spicy. Like, in comparison, over the years, because back in the day, they only used to have like 1 or 2 kind of Cyber Weekend events, and now they have like a Cyber Weekend event like every single month. There was one for like, freaking like Valentine's Day, there's going to be the Deadpool's doubloons one, and all sorts of like just random bullshit that pops up in the year because, Cyber Monday's super profitable, and why not have 8 to 12 of them every single year? And that's where like the majority of the best rewards are at the moment, is like playing through that content. If you are just a free-to-play player, somebody that hasn't spent, unless you've got very lucky with a roster comp to have all the specific stuff for Karina challenges, and I've been farming revives in 3.2.6 like an absolute sweat lord to kind of do all of those, and also possess the necessary skill to do that, and also have the rank up resources for all the champions that you pulled to meet all the criteria. Again, you're not even going to have 1 6-star rank 5 champion, because the other way to get them was, I think, spending a load in the gifting event as well. So yeah, I was just like, what a load of bullshit. I mean, you've already diluted the rewards. If we have a look at the highest difficulty side events, they don't have anything at the moment for like 6-star rank 5s. And again, there was a point in the game where monthly events kind of had the relevant endgame stuff again before 6 stars were released. The shards were actually given in the uncollected side events, so most people just via playing the game even before 6-star champions came out kind of got their first one that way. But again, 7-star shards and 7 stars are going to be coming soon, but those aren't anywhere to be seen in any of the side events currently. But again, granted, champion acquisition for 6 stars from duplicates is a little bit higher, but just in terms of those like base shards being available in side events for kind of the next tier up to get people ready and prepared, that stuff as of now is currently not in. And I would say it's very fair to say that most new content and most side events are heavily inferior to spending, like $100 or even a few hundred and just like clearing out all the Odins when it does come to, any sort of like Cyber Weekend event. And again, there are like so many of them at the moment. And this kind of like push for additional monetization as well also comes at a really weird time, right? Where they're trying to move the economy forward. There's so much stuff that they're going to be like milking the ever-living shit out of this year. Stuff like 7-star champions, they have the whole relic system as well. Like, you got 5 and 6-star relics. You also not only have the relics, you have getting like second copies because the awakened abilities on a lot of the top tier ones as well are pretty damn bonkers for certain champions. And then you have all of this like relic upgrade material system as well. And then you got the 7-star champions. You'll have the rank up materials as well for like 6-star rank 5 champions, which again, probably translate over to 7-star rank 2 champions. There's going to be stuff like Abyss 3.0. And again, in the way that they've been making the new challenges as well, it requires you to have like some of the most specific champions you've ever had in Karina challenges. You know, you need stuff like robots or Juggernaut, or like the right Spider-Verse characters to get through the right path. And then you also need to rank them up as well. And then when 7-star champions come, they've just got infinite bundles that they can drop. For shards, there's probably going to be like a new Paragon crystal as well. So they've got like all of this really aggressive monetization coming for like the next stage of the game. And also in terms of like general roster requirement as well, for a lot of people that are interested in a competitive scene, there has never been a higher incentive for people that care about like really sweaty PvP and being very competitive to buy all the rank up bundles on these various occasions, because you want to like fully deck out your roster for Battlegrounds. I don't really think the personal incentive for pay to win has like ever been higher in the history of the game, because like there are so many champions that are coming out that are like really annoying to fight or very, very good on attacking Battlegrounds. And again, if you get those champions, rank them up very early on when people aren't super used to fighting them, then either they're going to have to fight those champions or they're going to block your champions, and then you can bring in another defender that's like historically very, very annoying. But if you're a mega whale, you're buying like all of the new annoying champions, and they've just got to choose between, you know, banning like 3 out of 10 champions they really, really don't want to fight. So it gives whales like a huge edge, and you still got to get that champion as like a 6-star, soon to be 7-star champion. Again, the 7 stars is going to move to a point as well where those probably move to like rank 3, and then they're better prestige as well in comparison to any like 6-star rank 5 awakened champion. And then there's like a whole new kind of additional prestige race where people need to really build up their 7-star rosters, get stuff awakened, get all the sig stones in. And then on top of that, you're also going to have this kind of sub prestige race now in the entire relic system as well. So it's so weird to me that Kabam are going in from this angle of like, oh guys, like all the future content is in jeopardy right here unless we make more money selling revives. It's like, fuck off. You've got so much stuff to sell. It isn't even funny. And you're going through, or about to go through, one of the biggest economic changes, one of the biggest shakeups that you've done in like the last 5 years. The big migration from 6-star to 7-star champions, and comparatively from actually playing the game to buying all the offers on the Cyber Weekend, July 4th type of events, you've already like fucking nerfed all of the rewards down to the ground. So yeah, I don't buy it, mate. I thought, what a load of bullshit, and that's some of my reasoning. But like, again, just the more I thought about it, the more it's kind of been just increasingly infuriating me, I think is that the right way to describe it there. Kabam are the type of company to throw you down the stairs and then offer you a cup of tea. And you're sitting there, you're like, my leg's broken, Kabam. I can't walk. Kabam are like, it's a really good cup of tea, mate. It's delicious. You're really, really going to enjoy it. So this is the solution that they've come up with. Instead of the Apothecary, which is the new kind of revive farming map, being open 5 days a week, it's now open 7 days a week, which I kind of feel like this was already planned. Like they knew some outrage was coming. So they're like, oh, okay, well, we got this like thing. How about if we just say we're going to, you know, we know outrage is coming, but let's just put it as 5 days to start off with here. And then we'll up it to 7 and we'll be heroes. The community's going to love us, man. We're geniuses. We're geniuses. And then we'll just increase the revive cap a little bit as well. And there we go. There we go. And yeah, we'll just put some level 2 revives in the solo events, the 22-hour ones as well. You know, still got to grind out those bad boys and sweat a little bit on those. But what really annoys me is I hate the tone of this communication. It really feels like, you know, Kabam initially went to the table and they were like, you know, 2-handed sledgehammer, you guys are getting fucked. And we went, yeah, a little bit less fucked, please. And they went, a little bit. that feels like the entire dialogue that's happened here. And I just, like, fundamentally, it's really, really annoying because then it kind of reverts everything back to the whole philosophy of what do you want players to do to actually farm revives. A very boring side quest that has no content, going to provide no dopamine, incredibly repetitive every single day. You can't just auto complete it. It becomes like a manual chore to do. And also arena. And this is like the second thing they talk about as well. It's like, how is grinding for units any different than grinding for revives? This is different because, simply put, summoners are meant to have access to units that are provided in specific measured ways. Summoners are not meant to have access to revives in the current overtuned capacity. Additionally, most unit farming requires engaged gameplay, such as in the arena. Mate, I've played arena on and off for, God, 7 years? I don't think I've been engaged once. That shit is so boring. You're literally just sat there, forced to grind units if you are a free-to-play player, while your corpse is decaying, and you've just got to do it over and over again. Like, it's so boring. There's no dopamine. There's no sense of challenge. You just go in, you just tap the screen, you 10, 15 combo the opponent, and you just do it again and again and again. But the entire purpose of this change and arena and the way that you fundamentally farm revives is to make the experience so horrible, so insufferable, that you go, fuck this, I don't want to do this, but I want to do the new content. I'm just going to pay. I'm going to pay for units. I'm going to buy my revives. And I'm just going to go in because fuck spending my entire weekend. Fuck spending my whole week just grinding arena. It's so boring. I've been crushed, soul crushed by arena for years. And that's it. That literally is the reason, you know? That's the whole reason the game is built like that, because they want to make you go, fuck this grind, dude. I don't want to do it. It's so tedious. It's so boring. And they just want you to pay. They just want you to give them money. And it just, you know, that's it. That literally is it. And, you know, they're trying to dress it up in all these ways. They're trying to say, oh, you know, we might have to put content on the chopping block. They kind of double down on this as well. Like, without these changes, Act 8 might be the last chapter of story content. Additionally, we wouldn't see any more Everest content, such as our follow-up to Abyss, as well as other challenging content, which we have not yet started development. And again, this whole thing is like, in-development content is at risk. Bespoke, handcrafted Everest and endgame content is some of the most resource-intensive and costly content for us to produce. It's also some of the most popular content that drives summoners forward. That's the fucking huge thing. This game's about acquiring champions. You're selling champions. You're selling rank up materials. You're selling relics. You're selling friggin' everything associated with that in vast quantities that you top revenue. You've made so much fucking money. Like, the revenue estimates for Marvel Contest of Champions pulled back. Lifetime revenue is about $1 billion in lifetime revenue. And when asked to estimate kind of the average yearly revenue of Marvel Contest of Champions, it's about 150 million a year. Because I was like, this is fucking bullshit. So I'm just gonna work back through all of this data, just pull everything I could from like App Annie, just using Chat GPT, and just go through all the numbers, kind of crunch absolutely everything. So on average a year, approximately about 150 million in gross revenue. And again, there's deductions. 45 million as a community, we give to Apple, man. 30%, they take the cut off the top. The Marvel licensing fee, that's like 37.5 million. Unity game engine fee as well, that's about 3 million there. And then also, I wanted to, that leaves us with about 64.5 million on average. And then we've got to deduct all of the business expenses. So you've got stuff like office space, marketing, research, legal, taxes. Again, marketing might be a bit high. I don't really feel like, Marvel end up doing that much marketing nowadays. Like MCOC, I think it's all pretty organic, word of mouth. Marvel's like a bit of a crazy marketing machine itself. So I really don't feel like their costs are actually 20% of their revenue after Apple and overhead deductions there. But I may be incorrect on that one. But with like all of this stuff deducted, again, that takes it down from 64.5 million to, let's say we got about just over 25 million. And then assuming they have 150 people employed, and Kabam, they laid off people last year as well. This was a big headline, I think, toward the end of last year. average salary, again, there's probably some more expenses and stuff. This is just like a general estimate. It's like $172,000 per employee if it was split evenly, which is definitely not. There are probably people that are on much, much, much lower than that. Probably pretty much everybody that works there. But just to do like a really rough estimate, because I was like, I'm not buying this whole like fucking we're on the breadline. You make so much money, like it's all there, it's all transparent, it all goes through like Apple and Google. I can use AI to like, you know, filter in all the costs and do all the fucking calculations for me to figure out that you guys, you're probably pretty far from the red line. Like there's nothing to indicate that, you know, Marvel Contest of Champions is in any sort of financial trouble that you need to come and pander to the community with this absolute bullshit of in development content is at risk. It's part of the whole package that you sell as this content when you're selling new champions. And that is the core of your business model is, you know, creating amazing new champions that are awesome for the content that come in and are just really solid additions. And I think, you know, they've been doing a good job of making kick-ass champions. And a lot of people, when they like a champion, dude, tend to well out on the crystal. People have been going really, really hard. This is probably, especially like Absorbing Man, just kind of coming back to the game in January. There's just so many people I saw kind of well out for that champion, and then just immediately kind of like chuck absolutely everything in, just so that they could start clapping cheeks in Battlegrounds as well. So yeah, I don't buy a lot of this stuff, man. I think it's just absolute bullshit. And I think as well, just from a general community growth and user acquisition standpoint, Marvel Contest of Champions is mega fucking complicated. It's probably one of the probably like top most 100 complicated or complex games of all time to really understand everything that's going on. Because as a new player, right, you've got to learn all of these champions that you're getting, and then you've got to learn how to fight 250 characters just on the base of their kit. And if you look at, let's say, 100 of those champions, maybe 150 now, they're an absolute fucking car manual. There is so much stuff that you got to look through just to figure out the fundamentals of like, oh, you know, I can't hit into Mordo when he's stunned. And as a new player, you're just going to make so many mistakes and die, and then not have access to all of these resources that you need to actually learn how to play the game. Because that's where the real learning experience for Marvel Contest of Champions comes from getting into content, getting your ass beat, and failing. And there is so much we need to do as a game, as a community, to help people catch up and impart them all of this knowledge from all of the champions. And then on top of that, you've got like 1,000, 2,000 plus nodes. There's so many nodes. And then you've got all these different modes of gameplay as well, and the rules are different, and you've got different criteria, and then you've got synergies on top of that. It's so complicated. Like the level of depth and complexity, if you are somebody to spend 100 hours playing Marvel Contest of Champions, they would barely know, like, you know, not even 10% of the game. I think that'd be very, very generous, especially from a new player as well, because you've got to learn how to fight just at the base and kind of, you know, finesse that general gameplay loop. But then you've got to learn how to fight under, you know, 100 different criteria as well. You've got like a certain timer. You can't use heavy attacks. You've got to intercept on a certain node. You've got to like play around degeneration and do this thing at a certain time. There's just infinite depth and infinite complexity to the way that the game works. And I think there really needs to be very robust systems. And this is, I think, one of the biggest frustrations that people feel, because it's so easy as a progressing player just to hit a champion that you don't know how to fight, or a node and a champion combination that you're like, you maybe don't understand, or maybe don't have a good counter for, or maybe it's just really difficult, and you get your ass handed to you, and your entire stash gets drained, and then you're like, I feel like shit, I got no units, I got no revives, like, okay, what's my choice now? It's just, you know, do this daily quest for like another 2 months and replenish the stack and overflow, and just, you know, grind arena, spend all my weeks and weekends doing that. And that's not where the enjoyment comes from the game. That's not where the fun is. That's boring. That's really boring. It just like these changes don't make it any different from what they were trying to move away from. They were trying to argue that these you know, changes make it less of an idle game. They've made it more of an idle game, and they want to make it less of an idle game. Well, you're giving people like the absolute most dogshit, boring way to farm revives that doesn't teach them anything about improving. You don't learn anything proper in Arena because the fights aren't long enough. They don't have enough depth to really understand how to beat champions. You can maybe learn like a trick or two here and there, but like you don't properly learn how to fight in advance. And doing a daily quest as well, dude, like what's that going to teach you? You just, bring in your biggest guy and just pop them off in a second. I don't imagine it's going to be that difficult. It's just going to be, loads of just really tedious, boring fights that you've got to like log in, and it's just something to tick off the mental checklist every day. And like Marvel Contest of Champions as a game is fantastic when you're in really good content. And there's a lot of good content. It's just the amount as well of content as a new player, when you look at stuff, dude, from the lens of somebody that's like never played this game before and everything they've got to barrel down, it's like, oh, okay, you just beat like Thanos. Well, you've got like 100 more quests to get to until you're in friggin' book 2 act 8. Like there's so much stuff. Like every single act, every single chapter as well has 6 quests. You've got 24 in each one of those. There's a lot of challenges that await many players in Act 6. Act 7 is just a really interesting way to explore the synergy of your roster with certain nodes there. But I don't like Act 7 because it's too much reading. it's way too much reading. But it's not that bad, to be fair. It's just like a bit of a car manual as well. But, when you're kind of throwing all of this stuff and you go into Act 7, like Chapter 4, you bring up the nodes and you've got all of this stuff. And then you've also got like a champion or a boss you haven't fought. Just going to the Kang one, for example, just to look at the significance of information that you've got to intake. But like anybody that's really been playing MCOC for a while, if you kind of just step back from, your knowledge perspective and maybe your like 5 to 7 years of playing this game and really understand like how overwhelming a lot of this feels, and also the fact that a lot of players will not have been there when new champions have debuted and don't necessarily understand the fundamentals of fighting them. Like it might be Mephisto. You might be like, oh, okay, why am I taking fire damage? Oh, he's got fire aura. And then like knowing how to mitigate and play around that. Because I think to a lot of new players as well, if you don't understand the mechanics of certain champions and there's not stuff to teach you about the certain mechanics of champions, you're just like, oh, I hit Mephisto and take fire damage. Well, that's a load of bullshit. I'm hitting Electra and I'm taking like clapback damage. That's a load of bullshit. Something like Killmonger as well. But there's just so many, like the game does such a poor job at properly training and educating the players, because you've got all of this soulless content, this soulless grind that doesn't teach you anything aside from just being there in the moment, just tapping the screen and just, collecting your arena units. There's no thought, there's no detail put into that. It's just they want to put in something that's so tedious, so soul-crushing, that if you do have money, you're like, oh, I can't take this anymore. I'm just going to buy an Odin's bundle. Arena Grind can go fuck itself just so I can play the actual content in this game I want to play. And I think they've got so many ways to make money. It's fucking ludicrous. And they've been making good money. None of their arguments hold up. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I went off on a very, very long tangent today. But I wanted to get a few points across and just brain dump everything that's been on my mind. This game, fundamentally, I've been reminded really this year on my free-to-play, like when it's good and you're just flying through content and you really feel like you're getting better at your characters, you're learning how to fight all these new nodes and stuff, it feels great. It feels so good. But what I dislike about the free-to-play account is the deeper I get into the game, even with this revive farming method, the more I'm like, oh, okay, well, like, I can't really play for, like, another week because I need to replenish my resources. And I get that's, part of doing a free-to-play grind and challenge, but it makes you get so bored in that time that you're like, you forget what, like, actual content is like, and then you just, you just don't want to, like, come back to it. You have all these days where you're doing filler content, it's like a shit anime that has way too much filler episodes, right? You're watching it and you're like, oh well, this is bullshit. But then there's like one banger episode and you're like, oh god, that was really really fun. But then there's just so much filler, and during that filler is just such a way to get disengaged and drop off. And I feel like it could be done better. Just this is such a poor excuse, and the fact that again even some of the suggested fixes or slight improvements, again, are not going to be live for another month, and even changes to health potions as well, which they have been considering, are still not live for another like half a year. So hopefully those come before Galactus raids and Wish Crystals and what is it, Dual Mastery loadouts as well. That would be brilliant. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do smash that like button. Let me know any thoughts you have in the comment section below. Take care, and I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day.